You know, Alma Harrell is a great example of a person who, she took a gamble on me. You know, I was in rehab when we started having a conversation. I got arrested in Georgia for fighting with a cop, wound up in rehab, didn't hear a damn thing about God, spirituality, personal growth, accountability. My whole, as soon as I got to rehab was, let me get back to this hustle. So I started writing a script in rehab. That's how fucking mad I was. I wasn't listening to no therapy. I had been therapized my whole life that it felt like, you want me to focus on the problem? Well, how am I gonna hack this focusing on the problem thing? And how am I gonna find my way back to this fucking hustle so I can get back to my ego? You know, Honey Boy was born in this kind of toxic milieu of false recovery, masked as some kind of like upliftive product, and she was in on it because she thought that it was, I mean, I don't know what her motivations were, but it felt like she was doing kind of what you're doing here.
These comments by actor Shia LaBeouf sparked a billion thoughts in my head the second I heard them. Not without nuance, also filled with blunt honesty, these words caught me off guard and honestly put me off the film written by LaBeouf titled Honey Boy, which chronicles his early years coming up in Hollywood and the effects of that. But then I thought about what he was saying. LaBeouf says some of the actions in Honey Boy performed by his father were either exaggerated or just didn't happen. Now, on the surface, this sounds like such a horrible thing to do and say, to make a whole film about a family member showing their darkest side when it's not even real. But then again, was it a lie? No, a lot of these things did happen. LaBeouf's dad was an addict. They did live in a motel when Shia shot Even Stevens. But there's a grey line between fact and fiction here. And that's what I want to get into today with this video. Because the film connected with me in more ways than most films have, I want to get into it and understand what was true, what was exaggerated, and what was false. I also want to understand why LaBeouf would add these false aspects into the film and why we should understand that decision rather than immediately stick your nose up at it. First thing first, the idea of a biopic or a film based on true story not being 100% true is nothing new. We've had many films that are biased toward or against their subject. A recent example could be the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton. A lot of that film put stuff in there that was true or could have been true, but it was produced by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. That's why Eazy-E, Dre and Cube are central characters in that film, when MC Ren and DJ Yella are pushed to the side, along with many others. But negative things about these people kept out, like Dre's charges against Dee Barnes, for example. So with that being said, I think it's important to keep in mind that no biopic is fully truthful or non-biased, and I'm under no illusion of that. The thing that makes this film stand out in the biopic genre for me is many things, but it stands out more so now because of what Shia LaBeouf said about the film, saying his father never hit him like he does in the film, and many of his comments sound like he regrets the sense that the film gives off as a pity party, which it can be construed as. So now with this, we come to question what is true about the film and what isn't, which then leads us to ask, why? Like I said earlier, all biopics are biased because the people making them have opinions on the subject, and these opinions show themselves even if unintentionally. This could be structurally, the cast, the way scenes are shot. It just doesn't have to be the content of the project. However, there are some biopics that show the dark side of the subject almost well enough for you to get a whole view of the character. A film to use here could be Notorious, the film about hip-hop artist Biggie Smalls. The project shows his dark side, his cheating, his aggression, his bad decision making. However, the problem with the biopic genre is that we as an audience don't and never will know the subject enough to know if we're being led down the correct path to view the subject as they truly were. This is where Honey Boy comes in. The difference with this biopic compared to others is that it's written by the subject, about the subject, and his relationship with his father. In this situation, that's where the argument of being non-biased in a film goes right out the window. Of course, a piece of work like this will be biased, no matter how you look at it. Even the director, Alma Harrell, came out in an interview talking about child abuse and trauma, and how her own trauma influenced this picture. That's another biased view of the situation that just leans into more of that pity party aspect that the film could be viewed as. So that brings me back to my question. Why put lies out there? Well, I don't think LaBeouf and Harrell did put lies out there. Not in their point of view, especially at the time of producing the film. However, LaBeouf's inability to get a full understanding of his trauma drags the film down in spots, and I don't think the direction always brings it to a view of a life. It often can be confused and isn't sure how it wants the audience to feel. That's because the creators weren't sure how they felt at the time, in my opinion. So I don't think they put out lies, they put out their view of their pain, but they didn't necessarily put out their truth. No. Simple answer. The John Berenthal podcast episode with Shia LaBeouf is interesting and great for many different reasons, and this is just a small thing that stood out to me. LaBeouf puts himself out there a lot of the time, saying how awful he has been in the past, and how he wishes he could lend some kind of closure to people he hurt. When they're on the topic, they spoke about Honey Boy and its impact. Only speaking from my own perspective, the film helped me understand myself, help people around me understand, and help communicate and articulate a lot of feelings that go around for a lot of people who can't always find the right words to explain themselves. That's how the film impacted people, in my opinion. But did the recent comments by LaBeouf and his toxic behaviour throughout the last 20 years or so make the film bad? Again, no, because it still connects with people. It talks to people who have been through childhood trauma, and it talks to people who haven't and helps them understand more, which is important and needed. So none of these outside forces should affect how the film and its subject matter is viewed and talked about. If anything, to me, it enhances it because of the nuances that these comments and actions give. It brings to light that sometimes trauma, especially childhood ones, can be exaggerated or even just thought too much into. Your trauma shouldn't lead you and make you who you are. Many people, including the both, let it lead them, and we're happy for it to be an excuse. But if you actually face it, think and talk about it, then you can come to realise that it wasn't as bad as you thought, or as bad as other people's, which is another thing altogether, which isn't really relevant here. My final point would be, the film is good. It's important to understand trauma and its effects, and know that outside force should change that. And it won't for me, at least. I think it's important to say that a lot of this film is true, especially with the negative views LaBeouf put on himself, as well as the actual dynamic with Otis and his father, which is a very common relationship between addicts and their children. This is what we should be looking at and speaking about, not the hitting, not the fighting, the crying or the screaming in forests or any of it, all that. We should look at the dynamic presented in the film and use that to explore relationships around us. That's what film is about at the end of the day, and this one is no exception. If you like this video, please do give it a like and me a sub if you can. I love just talking about things, so it's really good when people listen and engage. I don't want to talk at you, I want a conversation, so please do drop a comment in the comment section below, give it a share around, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.